If I needed to run away, my bag, hiking gear and penknife were essential. I could get food anywhere, but my bag and shit were my lifeline. Where, he asked, drove me towards the fishing site. I walked the poor bugger through all of Pettypool, and he was really decent about it. We had a chat about his camping days, and he was really impressed I knew so much. I'd even managed to calm him down enough to convince him we had a small fire that was perfectly controlled. As a plus, I'd even pretended to take a pee and retrieve my bowie knife on the way. So when we hit Pettypool, and there was a big ball of fire could be seen at the top of the hill, he was not best impressed. A small camp, he says. Well-controlled fire, he says. Kept muttering to himself. Not far now, he says, dragging his feet behind him. He sounded more like Jason with every step. Picking up fucking butter, he says. I half expected him to tell me about a brother he once had, but he didn't. Grab your stuff and let's go. Do not tell Pip about this. That threw me. What? I asked. She thinks they found you walking the streets lost, and I'm not putting that thing out, he said, spreading his arms and gesturing towards the fire. Tony was okay. I bent to pick my stuff up and my bowie knife fell out of my belt. Hold this, I said, make it seem as natural as I could. What the hell? Oh, forget it. I don't want to know. Just hurry up, he told me. So Tony and I shared a secret, which was kind of nice. On the way home, he told me they'd lost a child. I told him he hinted at it with the bandana thing. Patrick had filled in the gaps. She misses him terribly. That's why we fostered, he said sadly. I know. I'm sorry I'm not him. But I can't be someone I'm not, I said. I know, lad. It's okay, he told me. I was in work the next day and got the roasting I expected off Wenzel. What do you think you're fucking playing at? He hissed at my face, making me look bad. Just how is that going to help me get a flat? We need to know you are happy with me, not pissing about playing soldiers. Are you happy or aren't you? It wasn't a question. It was an order. You're happy, aren't you? I was going to be happy, because he said so, whether I wanted to be or not. I tuned out after that, and just said yeah, and sorry, in the right places. He continued that shit all day, until I just made him background noise mentally. It was lunchtime and I was sat upstairs in the staff room with Wenzel on a two-seater green sofa. Well, you going to be over what? He asked me, all ears began near his mouth and eyeballing me, waiting for an answer. I said nothing as I had my mouth full. And out of nowhere, he knocked my arm so hard my bacon roll hit the floor. I looked at him. Look, just don't make me mad. I'm not a foster carer or a fucking social worker. The threat was there. He wanted to hurt me. I stood up, standing on the remainder of my bacon roll intentionally. I have things to do, I said. I'd made it to the stairs when he grabbed my arm. I'm sorry, I want you to live with me, and emotions aren't easy for me. I do, though, you know, which just makes me mad. I presume he meant love you, but he'd never said it. He was faking a fear of losing me. His anger was underneath. I could feel it travelling down his arm and into mine. I could see it in his eyes. I know, I have things to do, I said, breaking free. I'm wondering if he'd shove me down the stairs. He didn't, and my thoughts turned more and more to running away. Wenzel wasn't good for Jonathan, Jodie or Caroline, and he certainly wasn't good for me, and he constantly made vulgar jokes. Maybe I'd run to Kate's. We didn't talk, and I was sure she thought about me as much as I did her. I had to call her, but what to say? Wenzel was great with women. They seemed to love his humour. Tell her she's gorgeous and you can't stop thinking about her, he told me. No, that's corny, I replied. Tell her to suck your dick then, he said. No, it's too much, I replied. You want her to though, don't you? He replied. That was enough talking to him. From here on out, Kate was my secret. Chapter 38. It was lunchtime at school. I didn't want to find Keel or Cap. I didn't really want to be in school either. Kate had been in my head for weeks, playing the same scenes over and over again. Dancing, talking, walking hand in hand. I'd made myself a promise the next time she asked if I wanted to drink, I'd be there. I was nervous as hell, pacing backwards and forwards in school uniform. Outside the call box at Over Square in Winsford. What if she forgot me? What if she had a boyfriend? What if she didn't answer? What if it was the wrong number? Till I finally talked myself into making the call. Fancy meeting up? I asked. I've missed you, she told me. I used all the money I had left on that call, but I was on top of the world. I told her I'd move back with my dad. I'd go to the zoo with her, it'd be great. She sounded so excited. I could hear the shrill in her voice. I imagined her bouncing up and down. I was skint, but it didn't matter. Kate had spoken to me and I was overjoyed. We talked about scouts and holding hands. Her parents now agreed she's that little bit older, she can do what she wants. So we made a date for 2 weeks down the line. I told Wenzel he agreed he'd take us and drop her off again at home afterwards. For those 2 weeks I was as good as gold, everywhere, apart from school. Wenzel had allowed me to go to kickboxing classes, and they were pretty hardcore. I loved it, but the conditioning was hard. It was a lot more physical than boxing. We'd have to stand against a wall for one minute being hit in the kidneys and stomach whilst controlling our breathing. We'd take the punches, and then we'd swap round. We'd repeat it for a long time. I still had shoulder problems, and press-ups were almost impossible. So when it was the little times of boxing, I'd done sit-ups instead. Where my arms never built up, my stomach was perfect. But this wasn't boxing, and the rules were a little different. It was a case of do it, or get out. Helped a lot with my anger, and usually I felt better once I'd left. I must have been there maybe 3-6 months, but insisted on going alone, because one day Wenzel turned up early to collect me. He was watching me and it was press-ups time. I was slow and in pain. Wenzel got a kick out of that. "Come on, keep up," he shouted numerous times. He laughed when I collapsed, and when we finished I headed towards the car. He slung his arm around me on the way, pulling me close. "No son of mine would be that weak," he said, letting go. "Thanks, Dad." I was used to it. He had to be better. Always. I'd written to Bacon and Egg. He'd cycled to visit me whilst I was out. I was so pleased. He was great. I called him, he cycled up again the next day. We went to play pool at the local pub, a nice quiet place. Everyone was polite and friendly. We took a walk around the countryside and he cycled home again. When I got back to Pip and Tony's, I got roasting for being in the pub. "But I don't drink," I queried. "Doesn't matter, makes us look bad. My lad would never have done that," Pip replied. "I'm not your son," I yelled, feeling bad as soon as I said it. I stormed up the stairs. I called Wenzel. "I want out. I can't take this bullshit anymore." Spoke to social services. Told me to tell my social worker how I felt. I did. We all sat down and had a bit of a chat. Apart from Wenzel, who wasn't allowed in the house, I was upset because I didn't have a normal family, and Wenzel's put-downs were starting to affect me. Why would anyone want me? There's no reason for them to do so. Behave at school and you get the family back, I told myself over and over. Even saying the word family hurt. I hadn't seen Caroline, Jodie or Jonathan since I left care. I'd not seen Louise either. Fucking concentrate, I told myself, as I found I was drifting into my own little world. I was in motor vehicle class. I was way behind, so I decided to catch up, because I thought one day perhaps I'd impress Kate. However, I was totally unknowledgeable when it came to vehicles. There was a big woodworking room which we used to work on car parts. I needed to know something for my paperwork whilst everyone else was mucking around or doing a practical. I was catching up on weeks of paperwork. I approached the teacher, a thin, quiet man called Mr. Stockwell. While talking to him, a ball of sawdust hit me right in the neck. I was immediately pissed off and ready to fight. "I'm trying to fucking work here." I turned around and my good friend Keel stood right behind me, smiling at me. I presumed he was smiling because he'd thrown the sawdust and found it funny. Well, I wasn't impressed, and I nutted him. I don't even know why. I just moved my head back an inch and then shoved it forwards rapidly. When he stood up, his front tooth had gone, and the one beside it was wobbling. I turned back to Mr. Stockwell. "Sir, can you help me with—" Pointing to my pad as I said it, he cut me off. "Tracie, don't you think we should clean up Keel first?" Okay, yeah, sure," I replied, wondering why Keel had turned on me. Why was I in trouble for trying to work? I approached Keel and walked into the nurse's office where he explained Derek had thrown the ball of wood, and Keel had ducked, at which point it had hit me, and then he let it hang there like a guillotine as he pointed to his tooth. I felt like a bastard. What could I do? I'd promised to behave, so I couldn't slap Derek, but I'd snapped at Keel. I should have known Keel wouldn't let me down. Wenzel had got the flat and told me there would be a 2-week probation period until I could officially move in. There would be 6 months of social services checks before we'd be left alone, but they would be fine. I promised to behave, and it really was a great time because Kate was going to be involved, and eventually the family would be back together. Kate would be a big part of it. I was thinking about Kate day and night. What would we talk about when she was there? Would we get along like we did at Scouts? Would she still like me? I knew she wouldn't like Dad. I also felt I wasn't good enough for her. I'd have to lie to her about Mum too. I wasn't looking forward to that. How could I expect her to love me when my dad can't? Why would I want her to experience my life? The violence and the anger, the danger. She has a perfect family. She deserves better. I'll never forget the day I called her. I'd paced for 20 minutes by the same phone box I'd used previously, and then I dialed. It was hot, and I was sweating from heat and nerves. "Hi, Kate," I said. "Hiya, how are you? It's nearly time I get to see you," she said. It'd only been 3 days. I was about to make us both feel bad. "Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it and all, but the thing is," I said, "my mum can take us if your dad can't. She said she'd love to meet you," she told me. Part of me died inside. "I hurt my shoulder playing rugby. I need to rest," I lied. She was silent, so I added, "I went in for a tackle. I hit a post. I've broken my collarbone." Kate was silent for 2 whole seconds and said, "Oh, you poor thing. I wish I was there with you. Here was me only thinking about seeing you. Get well and call me," she said. I was holding tears back. Yeah, I will," I lied, and hung up. How low can you get? I thought, slumping my shoulders. I lied to someone I love to protect her from my life, my inner voice replied. No, to protect myself from being hurt, I told it. Push her away before she hurts me, I added. They all hurt me. She doesn't deserve my life. I hurt everyone, even Keel. I never spoke to her again. She remained in my thoughts, along with Nigel. Chapter 39. I was sat at Tony and Pip's, bored stupid and waiting for the days to vanish, when Pip said, "Why don't you go to the youth club?" I didn't even know there was one. Come to think of it, I'd seen no kids the entire time I was there. Perhaps once a week a couple of cute girls would walk past, but not like Mac or Winsford where they played in the streets. "Where is it?" I asked. The youth club had 2 pool tables, and was hidden away by the side of the only church in the village. It was run by a huge fellow with a leather waistcoat and big silver rings. I knew the moment I saw him that I wanted rings like that. I had a small school one, but I'd lost it at work, and his were huge. He was playing chess with another lad and was winning big time. Come in," he motioned to me with a big smile and slid a tin towards me. "How much?" I asked. "No charge the first time," he said, and winked at me. I liked him straight away. I looked beyond to the pool room where 5 or 6 lads were playing pool, and maybe another 12 around the tables, whilst a tall thin guy with a leather jacket and jet black hair stood alone by the wall drinking from a plastic cup. He'd seen me the second I came in, but turned away. He was doing a good job of pretending he didn't take everything in. He was at least 6 foot tall and very pale. "Want a drink?" the big guy playing chess asked me as he took another of the skinny lad's pieces. "Lemonade, please," I replied, noting the pop bottles on the wall behind him. "I'm Phil. Everyone calls me Dude," he said, showing me a huge paw covered in silver. I shook it, and he was gentle. "Got a name?" he asked me. "Yeah, I've got a name," I replied, smiling. He laughed, a huge belly laugh. Then as suddenly as it started, he stopped and took another piece. "Checkmate," he said. "Shit," the skinny lad replied. "Set him up," Dune answered him, and then looked at me again. "You play?" he asked, nodding towards the board. "I'm good. You carry on," I said, sipping my lemonade. The tall lad hadn't moved nor taken a sip from his drink. A couple of girls clocked me. The lads were too engrossed in their game. The tall boy had black jeans on, black shoes and a dark shirt. "You can call me Dude too," Dude said, watching me watch everyone else. I paid attention to the chess game, and Dude won again, at which point Skinny Lad turned to me. "Welcome to Youth Club," he said, half genuinely, half as though saying nobody could beat Dude. I laughed, because in Winsford Youth Club we got pay here and go over there. It was a lot nicer here. The lads were soon done with pool, and piled out together. One pushed into the tall lad by the door intentionally, and knocked his drink over him. He didn't even react, he just picked his beaker up with well-practiced actions and approached Dude. The lads laughed at him. "Watch where you're going," a lad taller than me in a red football top shouted, then stopped and walked back towards the pot bar and stood behind the tall guy. "Oi," I said, "watch where you're going." Dude spoke up. "That's enough, lads. You've had your fun." "No, not until he apologises," Red Shirt said. "I'm sorry," the tall lad who had done nothing wrong, who was now leaning on the bar, said. A baseball bat appeared on the bar in front of me, clutched a silver paw. "Out, now," Dude said calmly. They left, leaving me, Dude, and the tall lad. The girls giggled from the pool room. I guess it wasn't so unlike Mac after all. Dude pulled the tall lad a fresh drink on the house. "That happens a lot?" I asked whoever cared to answer. "Meh, just kids," Dude replied. "Ever had to use it?" I asked him, nodded behind the bar where the bat had vanished to. "Not yet," he said, smiling. I looked at the tall guy. "I'm sorry, I'm Mark," he said, holding a hand out like he was expecting me to cut it off. "Tracie," I said, shaking it gently. "That happens a lot?" I asked him. "All the time," he said, not smiling. "It's because I'm tall and Welsh. They don't like me. They think picking on the tall guy makes them look strong," Dude explained. "Makes sense," I said. Pool? Asked Mark. I'm not